you all for joining Successful Queens Book Club, and we're going to be reading the book by Sarah Jakes Roberts, Woman Evolve. Right now we are on chapter 5, and we definitely love that you all enjoyed come to join us.
Hello, my name is Nay, and I will be reading the book for you all. We are on chapter 5, Work the Wait. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Genesis 3:20. As we begin to do the inner work that leads us closer and closer to God's perfect plan for our lives, we can expect to discover purpose and passion that makes us ponder. Maybe this is why I was born. Generally, when we think about who we are, we begin by naming off the titles and roles we possess. I am a wife, mother, daughter, entrepreneur, leader, pastor, and author. Actually, that's not who I am. It's what I do. But it can be exceptionally hard to know the difference. Answering the question of who you are is impossible without understanding your essence. Ask yourself, what is my consistent offering to my job, family, friends, and community? I am a servant, lover, carrier of joy, motivator, facilitator of environments, listener, and believer. Those qualities make up who I am, but they also show up in my role. And the combination of those qualities gives me distinction regardless of the environment I'm in. While we do not want to make this mistake of making who we are become synonyms with what we do, we can't ignore what we do altogether. What you do and how you do it should all stem from who you are. My servanthood, love, joy, listening, believing, and facilitation of environments all show up in how I function as a wife, mother, daughter, entrepreneur, leader, pastor, and author. Your how in your now. Many of you reading this book aspire to see your life revolutionized from the inside out. Some goals you want to accomplish will be directly related to what you do or what you'd like to do one day, but you aren't exactly sure how to get there. I feel like this is where Eve landed once the aftermath of what took place in the garden settled in. God expanded her purpose, but God didn't leave the roadmap behind detailing how to get there. Is that how you feel? On one hand, you know exactly what you're supposed to do, but you also have no clue how you're supposed to do it. I really believe that, like Eve, your how is buried in your now. Maybe that's not your story, and you feel like knowing what you're supposed to do with your life, but not knowing how you're supposed to do it, would be welcome burden. I've got some thoughts that I believe will help you too. You don't have to know every detail of your purpose or even what your purpose is in order to set your life up for purpose. That's the part of the reason I want to stress how significant it is for you to come to a place where you trust who you are. Your inability to trust who you are will also show up in what you do. We falsely believe that we'll become confident in who we are when we arrive, but we fail to realize that confidence is what leads us there in the first place. If you don't think you are eloquent, intelligent, savvy, or confident enough for the journey ahead of you, it will show up in how you perform. And when your performance doesn't stand out, it leaves very little, if any, room for promotion, connection, and networking. It's a vicious cycle, because from there, you won't volunteer to take on new challenges. You won't push yourself beyond what is necessary. And you may even begin to sabotage your opportunities because you don't trust yourself to live up to the standard you have in mind. If your mind is anything like mine, you're wondering how you balance the real feelings of uncertainty when starting in a new field while maintaining who you are. I'm not suggesting you don't get nervous or what you walk into a room with false arrogance. What I'm saying is that when you walk into that space, you have to make a decision within yourself that no matter what happens, you will not allow the outcome to take away from who you are and all the hard work you've been doing. This is exactly what I tell myself before I speak. I'm usually super nervous because I want to perform well. I want to meet God's expectations and those of the people in the room. When I live in that nervous place, I talk fast, my words get jumbled, and I lose my train of thought. I end up literally doing the opposite of what I hope to do. When I take a few deep breaths and remind myself that I'm authentically who God has called me to be, so much so that I cannot fail, it ceases the tension. I may have the nerves, but I'm reminded my nerves who I am. When you come to a place where you're confident that your mistakes don't define you, that a person can't outshine you, and that failure is a blessing in disguise, you bring a level of confidence and fearlessness that sets you apart no matter what room you're in. This doesn't mean that you should walk into spaces unprepared and winging it. On the contrary, you have to be even more intentional about what you're doing, your homework, by understanding your audience and what matters to them. You want to know that you've done everything you know to do when you walk into the room. When you've done your homework, you're less afraid of taking a pop quiz. Isn't that what scares us from breaking out of our comfort zone in the first place? We don't want to be confronted with the pop quiz. That proves we're not as equipped and knowledgeable as we thought we were. You can't avoid failing in life, but you can do everything within your power to properly prepare. When faced with failure, you get to choose whether it becomes a lesson or a deterrent to keep you from trying again. I don't know about you, but I've made up in my mind that failure is going to have to work very hard if it's stepping into the ring with my faith. So you're getting ready to roll up your sleeves and allow the work that's been taking place on the inside to start showing up on the outside. You're ready to start doing the work to build out that full vision God has given you. Many women I've met have a passion to start a business, serve their community, climb the corporate ladder, write a book, or create a ministry. But they don't feel they have the tools to make that happen. I can't promise you that I can give you all the tools, but I do want to provide you with the important insight to help you keep your ambition off pause, begin to overcome obstacles, and pursue these desires. Be purposeful. First things first, you are your seed, and you have seed. You are what God has planted in the earth. Within you, He has placed the seed that will spring from your life so that the earth can be sustained. Have you ever seen an apple seed? It's so small and seemingly inconsequential, but we all know that there is more to that seed than we can see. When given an opportunity to be planted, nurtured, and nourished, that small seed can become a mighty tree. That's you. You're an apple seed. You're learning the beauty of being planted, nurtured, and nourished so that you provide sustenance to this world. Purpose is for the sustenance you offer to the world. I believe that purpose happens in steps. Sorry, I know you probably wanted me to give you all the cure-all sentence, but I'm not so sure it's that simple. 1. Agree. You must come into an agreement that your existence is seed. You are not random. How you start is not an indication of how you will finish. Even if your childhood included elements of trauma, it doesn't mean your seed has been damaged. If you're still living, breathing, and reading this book, then God is trying to let you know that there is still somewhere God can place you on this earth that will yield a version of you that looks more and more divine. This isn't even about knowing what you will become. Rather, it's acknowledging that you're here to become more and more like God in mind. 2. Protect. Because you aren't exactly sure who you are becoming, you must make sure to protect your environment from any habit, friendship, relationship, and opportunity that could stunt your growth. Let's go back to the apple seed example. Did you know that just because you take the seed of the Granny Smith apple and place it in the ground, that doesn't guarantee it will produce Granny Smith apples? Producing an apple tree takes more than just planting a seed in the ground. Variables, including the soil, pollen, and climate, all play a role in determining what kind of apple that tree will reproduce. We know that you are seed, but we don't know what kind of tree God is creating. It's not enough for you to be planted. You need people and opportunities in your life that reflect who you are becoming. You are the only person responsible for making sure you are vigilant in protecting the seed you are in God's mind. 3. Nurture. Finally, when your fruit seed begins to take root, you have to consider how you can continue the act of nurturing. You will know that something is nurturing your seed when it begins to cut through your fears and insecurities and begins to motivate and empower you. This may come from reading a book like you're doing now, hearing a speech, listening to a song, or connecting with someone you know. Make sure you take notice of the moments when you feel someone is nourishing your seed. Though countless people have asked me, how do I find my purpose? Realizing that you have purpose is actually better than knowing what your purpose is. When you don't know what your purpose is, you allow yourself to live randomly while still hoping to one day be awakened to why you're on earth. When you recognize your life is meant to serve the world, even when you don't know how, you will leave your unique distinction. You begin to find purpose in all that you do. Your ultimate purpose may not be evident to you now, but how are you making where you are now purposeful? Sometimes I go to the grocery store and walk around aimlessly while talking to my mother on the phone. Don't judge me. It's sometimes the closest I can get to a vacation. Other times I have a short window, so when I go into the store, I do so with the intent to not be distracted or delayed. Are you walking through life like you have no purpose, allowing yourself to become easily distracted? Or are you walking around life confident that you must protect your space and energy so you can recognize your purpose when it comes? How would you be living if you knew you had a purpose versus just wondering what your purpose is? Implement that lifestyle now, because it makes you open and available to truly filter through what can live in the realm of your purpose. For instance, your relationships only work because you're both lost and confused about who you are on earth. You don't have to know every detail of who you are to know that you don't have time for random. Feel your passion. After God gave the curse in the garden to the woman, her life had more refined purpose. She no longer had time for random. In Genesis 1, God gave humanity a broad purpose and vision for their existence. After the woman ate from the fruit, her original purpose didn't change, but her route became more nuanced and unique to her experience. That concludes our reading of the first half of Chapter 5 for this book club meeting today. Now we will continue and go on into our group discussion.
Yeah, so I think you made some really great points, and she was talking about knowing who you are and being confident in your purpose. And I think that that's really great because you want to have not, she said you should not be random. And a lot of people are going through daily life and they're not knowing exactly what their purpose is. They don't know exactly what they want to do in life or what they want to be in life. And I think it's a great thing that she touched base on knowing who you are and having your purpose.
Yes, I can agree with that, especially being in college and knowing people who come to school and they come in undecided, or they come in with a business major or maybe a English major, but they end up changing it because they're trying to find their purpose and what they're actually good at and what resonates with them. And I feel like it's very important to even just test things out to see what really speaks to your heart and your soul and what makes you genuinely feel good, regardless if it's gonna bring you a certain amount of income, because if you're happy with what you're doing, you found your purpose.
Yeah, because when you get to that when you get to that part in your life where you feel like you'll have your purpose, you'll know that God answered your prayers, and when you just trust and believe in God, and He will send your answer, and He will let you know that you are living out your purpose, and you just have to believe and trust in Him. So I think that she made some good points about knowing who you are, because you have to know who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what you dislike, what you like to do, how you like to do it, all of those different things to know what your purpose is. I think that a lot of people are just doing work because, okay, this is my job, I have to go to work, I have to do this, but they're not really sitting down and saying, okay, actually, what am I called to do? What is my assignment? What am I actually supposed to be doing? So I think that that's really good.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And I also want to touch on the apple seed analogy that she used, because a lot of people will see themselves and think, oh, I'm just a regular person, or, and the apple seed, we know that a seed is so small, but it can grow into this really big tree, and it takes time and it takes nurturing, and we're just like that as humans. We need time, we need experience, we need to learn ourselves, we need to learn how we work within our environment and our day-to-day lives and our activities, and that's going to give you knowledge and purpose in order to understand who you are as a person.
Yeah, I think that's really good. So that's a really good analogy, because we are like seeds, and we plant, and we're planted, and God will plant you in a place that you're supposed to be, and you will grow from there. So I think that that's really good.
Yeah, especially with growth, like knowing that a seed can grow and it may take so much time and years for it to get that big tree that we all look for with all the fruits and be fruitful. I wanted to touch on how you get faced with failure or something can stunt that growth, because if you plant a seed in the soil and then you have a lot of weeds around it, it can't necessarily grow because those weeds are taking from it or distracting it, if we're talking about it in a human sense. And when you're faced with failure or obstacles, you can't let that hold you back from finding your purpose. You have to continue to get up, go out, and do what you got to do in order to find who you are and find what really resonates with you.
Yeah, that's really good. So I think I agree with that, because you definitely want to have that inside of you, because you can say, I failed, but if you don't fail, then you don't succeed, because it takes failure to win in the end. So I think that that's really good, because you have to fail so many times before you actually succeed. So that's good, because you want to know that, and you want to know that when you're working on something, or you're working on a project, or you're working on trying to build an empire, or whatever you're working on, that it's going to take time, and it's like she said, a seed planted, and it has to grow and flourish, and you have to be willing to be patient. You have to have patience, you have to have dedication, you have to have determination, and you have to have persistence. And I think that that's very important.
Yes, I agree with that also. Especially being in college and speaking from a personal standpoint. I mean, I've had to retake a few classes. I'd had to do makeup work, or I might do a little bit bad on one quiz and do good on the other. But in the end, at the end of the semester, I always get all my credits, and then I move on to the next semester. And I feel like that really resonated with me personally, because I always beat myself up when I fail or when I didn't do as good as I wanted to. But then I look up and I get blessed, and I encourage myself, and I find what helps me in order to continue to succeed.
Yeah, and I think that's good, because when you are in college, you're going to go through so many different trials and tribulations, because you'll have college, you'll have peer pressure, you'll have different things that you're dealing with as a college student, and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be the end if I don't make it. But you'll have to keep going, you'll have to keep pressing, you'll have to keep believing, and you have to make sure that you're doing all your assignments and turning them in on time. And you have to keep all the distractions away, and you can focus on what you're supposed to do. Because if you have all of those different distractions coming in, then you won't be able to accomplish your goals. And that's why it's always important to write down what you want to do. If you write down what you want to do and then you check it off each time you write down what you want to do, you check it off as you go, then you will be able to accomplish the goals that you have in your life. And I think that that's very important, because that's how I got to where I am at today, where I have completed my master's degree. And it was a really long time coming, but every milestone, I just kept writing my goals down. I kept writing down exactly what I wanted to finish, and I kept marking them off each time that I was finished with each goal. And I think that you can use that concept and take that concept, and once you write it down and make the vision plain, then you will see the answers for you.
Yes, I agree with that, especially because it seems like what you followed those steps that she gave out to agree, protect, and nurture, which is the steps she gave for you to find your sustenance and find your purpose and to fuel your passion. So when you find your passion, it'll be easier for you to find your purpose. When you find what you're passionate about, you will just lean into your purpose, and you'll know that this is truly for me.
Yes, and purpose and in life and in seasons. And I know that in seasons you're going to go through different seasons in life, and your purpose is your ultimate destiny. And you're going to have different phases that you go through in life. You're going to have different seasons that you go through in life. And you just have to keep believing and keep pressing, because God will show you the way.
All right, so that concludes our discussion for the reading of Chapter 5. We made it to page 81, and we'll be reading the next chapter in our next podcast. Again, my name is Nay, and thank you for listening to me read, and let me know if you liked the book.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining our book club, Successful Queens. This is Manesha, and I just want to thank you all for listening. And if you enjoyed this, please follow us on Facebook as Successful Queens, or you can follow our Instagram page as Successful Queens 1. Thank you very much.